Hey, my name is Felipe and welcome to my channel. In this video I am going to show you how to build an emotion classifier using Python and OpenCV. This is an ideal project for beginners in computer vision and I am going to walk you step by step through the entire process. So let's start with it.
So this is the system we are going to build in this tutorial. You can see that it's a very simple system. Actually, we are going to be building an emotion detection software or an emotion classifier, and the idea is to receive a file which could be an image or a video, and we're going to get two different outputs. This is very important. We are going to get a JSON file, something like a JSON file or a dictionary containing absolutely all the detections in this file, absolutely all the faces that were detected in this file, and for each one of these faces we are going to have the emotion for that face. But we are also going to get an additional output which is going to be only one string and is going to be the most frequent emotion for that file. If it's an image, the most frequent emotion in that image, and if it's a video, the most frequent emotion through all the different frames in that video. In order to give you an example, let me show you one of the images I have prepared for this video. This is one of the images we are going to use in order to test this system, and you can see that in this image we have three different people. All of them have faces, obviously, and each one of these faces has like a very clear emotion. In his case, he is very happy. Her case, she's also happy. And then the child is like sad, right? He's like crying, he's like sad. So if I input this image into this system, I will expect to get something like a dictionary, which is going to be something like, I don't know, key number 0, happy, key number 1, happy, key number 2, sad, something like this. It's going to have three different keys, and for each one of these keys is going to have the emotion for that face. So each one of our keys is going to be one of the faces in our picture, in our photo, and then the emotion for that face. And then we're also going to have an additional output which is going to be the most frequent emotion, and for this image the most frequent emotion is happy, because we have two people which are happy and only one which is sad. So that's only to give you like a very high level intuition behind the system we are going to be building today. So we are going to input files which are going to be images or videos, and we are going to output these two objects, these two structures. And the reason for this project is that I have an idea for a future video, and building this system is going to be super useful for that future video. And if you're curious to know what this idea is, I recommend you to subscribe to my channel so you will be notified in case of other uploads. No, I'm just kidding, but if you want to subscribe to my channel, please go ahead and do it. And let's continue with this tutorial. So this is the repository. This is a repository we are going to use as a baseline to build our project. And this is a repository for face classification and detection. And the face classification is done in emotion and also in gender, right? Using this model, we are going to be able to get not only the emotions, but also the gender of our faces. Now, we don't really need the gender, so we are only going to keep the emotions. And something I should say about this repository is that it's not really recent. You can see the most recent changes, they were made years ago, and the most recent change was 2 years ago, and I think it was only to update this readme to say it's deprecated. So I noticed that this is not really recent, this is a little old, and the authors say this is now deprecated. So yeah, it's not going to be a state-of-the-art implementation, but it's going to be enough for now. In the future we can always update this model, or we can retrain this model and we can have like a more accurate model, but for now I think it's going to be okay. And let me show you what are all the different categories for this emotion classifier, and let me show you the paper. These are all the different categories we can get with this classifier. You can see we have angry. Let me do something better. I am going to download this file and I'm going to open it. No, maybe it's specify. Anyway, that's okay. Maybe I can just change the position of my camera in the video. So these are all the different categories we can get for this classifier, which are angry, disgust, fear, happy, sad, surprise, and neutral. Before making this tutorial, I have been testing this model, and I have been trying to do some faces myself and trying to emulate each one of these emotions, trying to put each one of these emotions on my face and test if this emotion classifier works properly or not. And I noticed that it was super easy to put like a happy face or to put a surprise face. What I mean is that it was super easy for this classifier to classify my happy face as happy or my surprise face as surprised, and I could say the same for these other categories, for sad and neutral. But I noticed that it wasn't really that easy to get classified as fear, disgust, or angry. Or maybe I don't really know how to put these emotions because something was going on when I tried to do it. But then when I took a look at this confusion matrix, I noticed that maybe it's not me, because I noticed that we have very high accuracy for happy, for classifying as happy something that is happy, and also for surprise to classify as surprise a face which is surprised. But then all the other remaining categories, they don't really have very high accuracy, so this is something we should be aware. Maybe it's not really maybe it's not going to be as easy to get classified as one of these other categories. Maybe we can only be super confident about happy and surprised, and all the other categories, they're not really that well. But anyway, this is just like a comment so you are aware about this model accuracy, about this model performance, but it doesn't matter. Let's start with it and let's see how it goes. The first thing I'm going to do is to clone this repository, and I have already made a directory for this, so the only thing I have to do is to do git clone, and that's pretty much it. I have to wait a couple of seconds until the download is completed, and it seems the download is completed. Okay, so now I will get back to PyCharm. I have already created a project for for today's tutorial, and I have created a virtual environment as well. So what I'm going to do first is to install all the dependencies which are in this requirements file for the repository I have just cloned. And before I do it, you should be aware that the authors themselves say something about TensorFlow, and this is a not very recent repository, so I had a few errors when I was trying to install all these dependencies, and I noticed that the best strategy is to remove all the versions for all these different packages and to just install the packages but without the versions. So I am going to do that, and I am going to pip install all this file -r face. Oh, okay. So I am going to install this file, all these packages, without specifying the package version. This is going to be best. Trust me, I have been doing tests before making this tutorial, and I noticed that this was the best way to do it. So now we have to wait a few minutes. Okay, so the install is now completed. That took way more time than I originally thought. And what I'm going to do now is just going to src, which is the source directory for this repository, and I am going to take one of these scripts. I am going to take this one, which is image emotion gender demo, and I'm going to make some edits to this file in order to get the output I am looking for my system. Okay, so I am going to take this file, and I am going to take this file as a baseline in order to build my code on top. But before doing that, I think it's going to be a good thing to test this code as it is. I am going to test this script out of the box and to make sure this works properly. That's a very good thing to do when approaching a project like this. Okay, it seems it has been completed. So now let's see what's the output for the emotion and gender classification of this image I have input. If I remember correctly, the output is in images, and it's this predicted test. Okay, so we can see that the execution has been completed. We have drawn some bounding boxes on top of our image, and the first thing we notice is that the gender classifier is not working very well, or maybe it's working perfectly but the labels are switched. Maybe it's classifying as a woman or man, and it's classifying as a man or women. But it doesn't matter, we are not going to use the gender classifier anyway, so let's assume everything works properly. And in these two images, it seems the emotion classifier, the text for the emotion classifier, the category, hasn't been greeting in the image because it's like if it has been greeting outside the image. I mean, the image, it seems it's too small, but it doesn't matter. Let's assume everything works properly because everything seems to be working properly. And what I'm going to do now is to start with my own script, with my own pipeline. So I am going to take this code, I'm going to copy this, and I am going to create a new one, which is called main emotion classifier. Okay, so I have created my file, and just to make everything simpler and to make sure, you can never make sure in software, but in order to make sure everything is going to work properly, I am going to put this script into this directory, which is the same directory where this other file was located. Okay, so no, I don't know what I copied. I made a mistake. I am going to copy this image emotion gender classifier. This is the file I have to copy. Okay, it seems I had copied something else. I had copied this one, a mistake. Okay, so now this should be working as it is, and in order to make sure, I am going to execute this new file I have just created. So this is going to be main emotion classifier.py, and I'm going to give it my input image, the same input image. Let's wait until this is completed, but nothing should happen because we already noticed this file is working properly before I did a copy paste. So I am going to make a few edits because I want to take everything into this format. I want to output these two objects. I want to output the JSON file, and I also want to output the most frequent emotion. So what I'm going to do is to delete everything that's related to the gender classifier because we are not going to use it. So I'm going to remove this, what else? This is okay, gender no, gender emotion offsets. I don't know what this is to twice because it's only reading the last variable that was defined. This is not, I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to use this either. I am just going to delete everything that's not useful for what I'm going to do now. Okay, this is not, I'm not going to use it either. And all the drawing, I'm going to delete it too. Okay, so we have, I think this is pretty much it. Gender classifier, I'm going to delete it. Okay, I think this is pretty much it. Let's see what happens if I try to run this script, but I'm going to run it the same way as before here. So if everything works properly, I should be able to run only the emotion classifier related code. Let's see what happens. And everything was run successfully, so everything is going okay. So what I am going to do is to make this into a function. So if name equal main, I'm going to call another function which is process, and then I'm going to define my process function, which is going to be all of this, def process, and yeah, and that's going to be it. So what I'm going to do next is to return the objects I want from this function. Okay, for now, let's leave everything as it is. What I'm going to do now, I'm not going to write the image anymore. So I'm going to do this, emotion text. Emotion text is okay. And I'm going to define a variable which is output. This is going to be a dictionary, and outputs, I'm going to rename this as face coordinates, and enumerate, so I can access the index for this face calling this object. So now I can say something like output face coordinates equal to something like emotion text, and then I also want the score, I want the confidence value. So this is going to be, let's say something like score, and this, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be a max, right? Yes, but maybe it's going to be best. I'm classifying twice, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be super efficient. This is going to work. I can make it even better and I can make it even more efficient next time, but for now let's make it functional. So this should be enough, and now let's return output and let's see what happens. This is output, and now let's print output, and let's execute this again. Okay. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3 objects, 3 dictionaries, and each one of them contains the emotion word, the name of my emotion, which is happy, sad, unhappy, and each one of these cases it's also the score for each one of these classifications. So everything seems to be working properly, and that should be it. But in order to return this object, it should work not only for individual images but also for videos. So if this is an image, everything is perfect, but if this is a video, it is not going to work. So if this is a video, we have to make a small edit, and if this is a video, we will have to iterate in all the frames for that video. So let's do something like this. If, let's see, where is my image path? Is here. Let's do it before the image is loaded. Let's do it here. I don't need this anymore. So if image path, let's take a look at the extension for image path. If image path it's here -3 in JPG or PNG, let's assume all images are either JPG or PNG. If this is the case, then something, and if it's not, else, then it's a video. So I'm going to define another structure, which is images dir, and or something like images list, and this is going to be a list of all of my images. Yes, this is what I have to do. So images list in this case is going to be only my image path, right? Because it's the only image I have. But if I have a video, then images list, then I will have to run another command, which is ffmpeg, in order to convert this video into its frames, in order to extract all the frames from this video. So let's take a look at the exact command. I have already done it many times, so I'm going to check my history in my terminal. This is ffmpeg, and I have many times I have executed ffmpeg related commands, but let's find the one we need is here. Okay, something like this we need to execute. So I am going to copy this, and this is an input, and then the other input is going to be my output directory. So I don't really want to call this file name. Let's call this frame underscore, and then let's make it like this. Okay, and this is going to be format my input, which is, let's call it input file, and now I'm going to define it, and then the output directory, or actually the frames directory. And now let's define these two objects. Okay, so I need to define a frames directory, which I think I'm going to define as the current temp directory. I'm going to call frames directory is going to be this is only a temp directory, and I'm going to delete it as soon as I complete my execution and as soon as everything is done. So frames directory is going to be this. If os.path.exists frames directory, what am I going to do? I'm going to delete it. Remove 3 frames directory. Just let's make sure I have imported util. Yes. Else, oh no, it doesn't matter. Now I'm going to create it. Frames directory. Yeah, and that's going to be enough. So I have created a directory which is going to contain all the frames in my video. And that should be it for this part. Then for input file is going to be image path, because image path is my video. Okay, so I think this should be enough. I think it is enough, yes. And now images list is going to be a list f for f in os list dir frames dir. Okay, but I want the full path. So this is going to be os path join and then frames dir f for f in os list dir. Perfect. This is perfect. Yeah, this is perfect. Okay, and then this is going to be all. Let's make it sorted. Sorted. Okay, and this should be enough. Now I need to iterate in all the images in my images list object. It doesn't matter if it contains only one or if it contains a lot of frames from my video. It's going to be exactly the same. So I'm going to say something like for image path in enumerate images list. And what's going to happen? I am just going to run all this code for all the images in images list. So images path, yes, so it's okay. I'm overwriting this object, this variable, but that's okay. That's what we want. And everything seems to be okay. I'm going to make a small edit here. So output is defined here. And then I am going to define another dictionary here, which is going to something like a temp dictionary. So at the end, I do something like temp, and before leaving, I do something like output image path equal to temp. Let's see if this works. I am going to execute this. Yeah, this should work. Yes, I'm going to execute it the same way as before, and we should have exactly the same output, but now everything should be within another object, another dictionary, which contains only one key. So the output should be exactly the same, and we notice that the output is exactly the same, but now everything is within an initial dictionary. So everything's okay. Now I'm going to test exactly the same system, but for a video. I have prepared a video as a test example, and let me show you the video I have prepared for this tutorial. Just a minute. Code data. Okay, this is the video I have prepared. It's basically a guy, it's a man, it's someone who is speaking in front of a camera, and you can notice this may not be the most expressive man, or at least I don't really get a lot of emotions from him. But what I like about this video is that it's a person who is speaking in front of a camera, and it's like super, the face is very well defined, and I thought it was going to be a very good example for this tutorial. So this is the video I am going to use in order to test if the video execution works properly. So now I'm going to do something like this, and let's see what happens. I have to wait a couple of minutes. Now it should take a little more time to execute, because not only I'm running FFmpeg before starting my execution, but I am also doing the design process for absolutely all the frames in this video. And if it's 20 seconds long, we are talking about around 600 frames. So this is going to take some time. So I'm just going to wait until this is completed, or until I have an error or something, and I'm going to fast forward until it happens. Okay, so the execution is now completed. You can see that this is the output we got, and this is like a huge dictionary with a lot of keys and a lot of frames and all the different emotions and all the different everything. It's a little, it's not very clean to understand it, so I am going to make a small edit, which is for key in output dot keys, and I'm going to print this object, which is only a detail, but it's going to make this print much cleaner and much nicer next time we execute this code. And something else I should say, another edit I did to this code while I was waiting to the execution to be completed, is that I changed this frame directory, the definition, to outside of this if else, and then I added a new one of these pieces of code at the end of my function, so I make sure the frames directory is removed when I complete the execution of this function. So this is only a detail, but I wanted to tell you this before continue. And everything is pretty much ready. So we want to output these two objects, and we are done. We are completed with the first one of our objects. So now let's implement another function which is going to give us the most frequent emotion given a dictionary like this. So I am going to define get most frequent emotion, and it's going to receive a dictionary as input. So something like that. Assuming the structure we have defined for this dictionary, I'm going to do something like for frame number in dict.keys, and then for face number for in dict frame number. Yes, that should be enough. I am going to define a list emotions, and I'm going to append this, and then face number. This is dot keys, and what else? I need to append the emotion key. Okay, so now I'm printing all the emotions, and I should get something like I'm going to make a Google search, or actually a DuckDuckGo search. Get most frequent elements in list Python. Exactly. So I have already searched for this many times, and let's see. I like this one. Yes, I like this one, so I am going to copy this one. I really like one-liners, so every time I can execute a function in one line, I obviously do it. I'm going to change. No, I'm going to leave it as it is, and then I just have to call it by most frequent. So I'm going to say return most frequent, and my list is emotions. Okay, now I'm going to test this. I'm going to return output and also get most frequent emotions output, and then most frequent emotion, and I'm going to print both. Okay, and let's see what happens. I am going to execute the image first. Executing the video took a couple of minutes, so if I execute the image first, it's going to be way easier in order to test this new function. Now let's wait a couple of minutes. No, something is not right. Okay. Here, okay. Now let's try again. Okay, so everything seems to be working fine. Yeah, we got these three phases, which were, it's exactly the same execution as before. And now we got the most frequent emotion, which is happy. So everything seems to be working fine for the image. Now I'm going to test the video, and this is going to take a couple of minutes, so I'm going to fast forward this video again. Okay, so the execution is now completed, and you can see that now we are printing all these dictionaries. Something I realized now that we are not printing the frame number, so we are only printing all these objects, but we don't really know the frame number. But it doesn't matter; it's only a detail, and we don't really know that we don't really need the frame number. And you can see that for each one of these frames, we get the emotion. In this case, it's neutral, the underscore. And let me show you. In this case, for example, we detected 2 faces. I'm not sure what happened there because there's only 1 face in the entire video, but if I take a look at this face, for example, it was detected with a very low accuracy, so maybe that's what happened. And you can see, yeah, we have detected now a face with an angry emotion and with a sad emotion, happy emotion, and so on. And then if I scroll down and I take a look at the most frequent emotion in the entire video, we see that it's neutral. And it makes sense because if we remember this video, if I look at the guy's face, I will say it's pretty neutral. So if we are classifying as the most frequent emotion in this video is neutral, I think it makes perfect sense. So this is going to be all for this tutorial. This is how you can implement an emotion classifier using Python and OpenCV, and this is how we created this system with which receives as input an image or a video, and it outputs these 2 different objects: a JSON file containing absolutely all the detections for that image or that video, and also the most frequent emotion in that image or in that video. This is going to be it for today. My name is Felipe. I'm a computer vision developer. If you like this video, I invite you to click the like button, and I also invite you to subscribe to my channel. In this channel, I usually make tutorials exactly like this one, where I cover different topics of machine learning and computer vision. This is going to be all for today, and see you on the next video.